Listen up! Hatul versus Language Hacker!
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Fall Championships. I'm TJ, joined by the Admiral. That's admirable.
I thought you were just gonna slap me. It's like I was like, what did I do?
I was thinking about it, but no.
Everybody is.
Yeah. But you know what, Admiral? I'm not going to even get your thoughts.
Good.
Because it's Hearthstone time, and it's time to introduce the first player. Please welcome to the stage, Language Hacker.
Normally he hacks languages, but in this match he's gonna try to hack down Hatul.
And his opponent from Israel, it's Hatul.
Not much of a language hacker, but he's gonna try to not get hacked down because he's Hatul.
I want to say one thing, Admiral. I don't think these guys could be more opposite in the personality development.
I don't think there's much question about it. You know, I would say that just looking at them, they have like a similar appearance. Tall, slender guys, look smart, well-dressed. But when it comes to their words, Language Hacker's very soft-spoken, very humble. Hatul, he's very opinionated. I think he's perhaps the most opinionated player to make an appearance here.
I agree.
Pop those peas.
Taunt Druid banned away from Language Hacker. Odd Warrior banned away from Hatul. Odd Warrior, pretty big ban here because it is undefeated in the Fall Championship.
It's been banned every time. And
yes, undefeated.
And I want to just talk about the Odd Warrior list real quick because we're not able to see it because it keeps getting banned away. It is strong against a lot of the aggressive decks that are out there and decks that have a certain amount of damage that they deal overall, like think some combo decks and stuff. But Hatul has 2 Faceless Manipulator,
boom,
2 Carnivorous Cube,
boom,
a Darius Crowley, 2 Fester Root Hulks,
boom, and
a Vicious Fledgling in the Odd Warrior deck. Not to mention the 2 Frothing Berserkers that are in there. It's like he's tempting people to not ban it. It's like, it's the weirdest thing because I don't think these cards are like bad cards, but I don't necessarily think that they're good cards either. It's just kind of weird, but it's just getting banned every time, so it's doing the job.
Boom.
Hats off to Hatul for getting that one banned every single match.
Yeah.
I personally, I would disrespect not ban it, and then I'd probably promptly lose to it, and then wish I had banned it. Taunt Druid banned away makes a lot of sense if you're on Hatul's side. He's got Big Druid as the Druid deck. He's got Spell Hunter as his Hunter deck, and he's got Combo Control Priest here, featuring a fairly interesting Dragon package in the Combo Priest deck. You're looking at 2 copies of Scale Worm, a Cobalt Scalebane, 2 Free from Amber, 1 Primordial Drake, 1 Alexstrasza.
Yeah, he's also got the Auchenai Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing. So a way to remove board states. Hatul said that he was building his lineup to be aggro, but he mid-ranged his lineups up to be control decks. He says that the anti-aggro decks have like, you know, 10 to 15 cards that are core that are going to beat aggro. But he said he wants to play his play style. He wants to make sure that he does have game against just about everything. And I got to respect that out of players when they say, you know what, I'm not going to be a filthy net decker. I'm going to bring my own stuff. I'm going to play to my play style, play to my strengths. And
I believe the direct quote was filthy net decker as well.
Yeah, from Hatul himself.
Yeah, he was very insistent on the fact that he believes a lot of pros just, they look at data, they rely on that data, they play the same decks. And he said, if you just think about the game and figure out what you want your deck to do, you can just build it in a different way.
Yeah.
I think that task is much easier said than done, but that's a claim that he very boldly makes, and he will stand by it. Ask him about it. I challenge you to.
I won't, actually. I'm not going to do that. Scary individual.
Language Hacker has found a very key card with Deathstalker Rexar.
Yeah, but right now, he's just going to kind of beat him down.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of pressure rolling. That's when Deathstalker Rexar really, I think, matters the most as well, is when you have this initial game plan of attack and you're able to follow up on that with Deathstalker Rexar. So if and when things go awry, your opponent is able to check all your resources, you have a reload card that starts continuing that pressure train over and over. Constantly asks your opponent, can you answer this?
Yeah. One of the reasons why we don't see Control Priest very often is it often struggles to do everything at once. their card draw is not as consistent as some of the other combo decks like Shutterwalk or Malagos. And its control tools are not as consistent and come much later in the game than those decks as well. We're talking about Psychic Scream, Dustbreaker, which you need a dragon to activate even after drawing it. So there's a lot of things kind of working against the deck in the consistency department. And I feel like Hatul's is even more so that case. He does have more dragons, so Dustbreaker is activated more of the time. I mean, but in these types of games, he also just has a bunch of minions in his hand that are very bad for tempo.
That's true, but I mean, let's be quite honest. Language Hacker has drawn an incredible opening hand this game.
Yes, I was more talking about the deck from as a whole, but
it's just the delivery amongst this, you know, particular game. It feels, I don't know, it just feels weird, you know. We're like, yeah, Priest is kind of slow as a control deck. Meanwhile, he's getting beat down by a fantastic hand.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I just wanted to, you know, kind of put it out there. You know, not everyone sees Death Rattle Hunter draw these kinds of hands all the time. You know, if you're watching Death Rattle Hunter, and you're like, man, I was thinking about playing that.
I was just trying to sound smart.
You're not going to have this happen every time. And you are smart, TJ. You're good enough. You're smart enough. Doggone it. People like you. Language Hacker's just going to keep trucking, though. This hand has allowed him a lot of freedom to develop as he chooses.
When a lot of people talk about this matchup, too, they tend to say, you know, outside of a crazy early start, Priest has a lot of tools to fight against Druid. Psychic Scream just wrecks this deck because it doesn't have card draw. A lot of times it relies on those big, expensive Death Rattle minions to put the pressure on, and Psychic Scream just completely interrupts egg plans, cube plans, Katharina plans, all that stuff.
That's a pretty nice pickup for Hatul, I think. You know, he's coming up on a Scream turn, and when that happens, one of the things that you don't want to do is just leave your opponent with a bunch of board presence. So something you can pretty easily do with that Shadow Word Death is take out this 5/5, heal up a little bit. You're going to take some damage in the meantime, but you know, maybe Language Hacker feels compelled to pressure into this board a little bit more. Now, if Language Hacker smells a Psychic Scream on the horizon, that may prompt him to actually use Deathstalker Rexar here.
Yeah.
And since his hand doesn't contain a lot of pressure, that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So Hatul was able to check the early game, even though it was pretty darn crazy from Language Hacker. Round 2. Can you beat the Build-A-Beasts?
What this also does is it makes the Psychic Scream quite a bit more awkward because you're coming up on some big power turns for Language Hacker. You Psychic Scream now without a second backup Psychic Scream in your hand, or Shadow Visions to try and find one.
Yeah, it really takes away that Psychic Scream option here. There's just not nearly enough on board to make that happen.
Yeah.
Duskbreaker, give your opponent a 5/5. Ooh, that is scary.
Doesn't have to worry about the steady shot anymore, but zombies potentially just as threatening because Language Hacker can find those big bombs, and I think that's what Hatul realizes.
I mean, in real effect, Hatul took one attack off the board there.
Yeah.
And he actually stuck it onto a minion that is, you know, more powerful against a 3/5 than 2 3/3s would be.
Yeah.
Kind of weird to think about.
He did draw a card.
He's just got to do something. If he sits here and keeps doing nothing, he's just going to die. So, you know, he has to try to do anything to get something rolling.
Shimmering Courser picked up from the Zombies.
Celiax is going to be just a block if he plays it. Language Hacker seems like he really wants to take this trade. You know, something to think about is if you don't trade this minion, what's your opponent going to do with it? Nothing, I agree.
I think Shadow Reaper Anduin maybe was a consideration there going into turn 8.
The biggest one, I'd say.
But he still would stick his Zilix on the board, and I think he really values that additional damage. And also, Shadow Reaper Anduin means that Hatul just doesn't have any more healing.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, this Zombies, which is a Shimmering Courser Jungle Panther, 7-attack stealth minion that can't be targeted by spells or hero powers from his opponent.
And Hatul's going to probably end up having to get a little bit desperate here and start drawing some cards. I mean, right now his hand's just not providing him anything.
Is someone injured?
Yeah, 2 cards here thanks to the circle. Honestly, I feel like the play that I've seen from Hatul has been quite solid. I feel like some of the matchups have been a little bit tough. Oh my.
1 turn away.
So now, Language Hacker is actually presented with a pretty interesting opportunity. If he pushes 5 to face, it sets Hatul down to 5. And then he can play Candle Shot, set him down to 4, play the big Stealth Beast. That threatens lethal. Hatul's forced to play Shadow Reaper Anduin or Psychic Scream if he has him. If it's Shadow Reaper Anduin he plays, can Crush kills him. If it's Psychic Scream, you still have pressure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is to set him to 4.
This is a full face kind of turn. Yeah, Language Hacker, he's just past that threshold where Hatul can really do anything about it. Yeah. Short of a top deck free from Amber and then a crazy result.
With the Hunter's Mark in hand, I don't even think that's a crazy result. I guess it would have to be free from Amber into a...
I don't even know what.
Statue, but that's...
I don't think Statue gets it done even.
Yeah, I don't think that, because he'd Hunter's Mark, kill it, he'd heal for 4, he'd go back up to 8, and then he'd just play...
King Crush, yeah.
King Crush, so...
You're right. It's checkmate for Language Hacker. He's going to pick up game 1.
Cyber Leaf as well.
I mean, this matchup is frankly quite tough for Language Hacker. Hatul was face down one of the best openings I think that Language Hacker could have had, and just gets pressured out.
Yeah. And you can see the additional tech not paying off for Hatul in this matchup. That Cobalt Scalebane, any other control tool in this matchup, I feel like could have been a lot better. Even Cabal Shadow Priest, which he decided to cut from the deck.
I don't think it would have made a difference.
Yeah,
this one.
Maybe not.
It was all the 5/5s early on. You know, they just got in so much damage that Hatul was forced to react in the most defensive ways that you possibly can. And, you know, no Divine Hymns being drawn, that's just going to happen sometimes. You know, we would like to see some more early tools. If, you know, Language Hacker is 1 less 5/5, that game is within reach. Just got beat down. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Language Hacker with the Odd Rogue and Shudderwalk Shaman as his 2 decks left remaining. I feel that the Odd Rogue maybe is the one deck that Hatul can try and target, but Shudderwalk Shaman I feel is going to be pretty tough with the way Hatul's lineup is built.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Big Druid, I'm looking at Spell Hunter, I'm looking at Control Priest. It feels bad. Like, yep. I don't really know how else to say it. I mean, Hatul's main, you know, chance with the Hunter against that is going to be an early Spellstone turn that goes unchecked. With the Control Priest, it's about Language Hacker not finding the right combo tools and then pressuring him out. And then against the Odd Rogue, I think that all of these decks can struggle pretty much except the Hunter. I think the Hunter's pretty well positioned against the Rogue, so I think it's a really uphill battle from this point.
Yeah, it is going to be pretty tough for Hatul. But we're going to get into game number 2 in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. More Fall Championship decider matches right after this.
The quest for Hearthstone's greatest prize continues. With the casters.
If I were to create a dream team with myself and 2 other players, I'd pick Brian Kibler and Shiro, his dog. I think us 3 would be an unstoppable force.
Well, I actually do a bunch of content via OmniSlash with Firebat and Zillet. They're both super smart players, super dedicated, really good, and I think that they would work well together alongside me because we worked together before.
I guess I'll put Shiro as my #1 draft pick, and then Kibler can still come in, but he just knows that he wasn't my #1 choice now.
Whoa, who would I pick as my 2 teammates? Goodness, you put me on the spot here. Well, I gotta pick TJ, because TJ's like, he's like my brother.
That's Admirable's one of them. Longtime casting buddy of mine.
You know, I think we can game with the best of them. If they think they can't beat us, I challenge them to see if they can hit Ragnarok shots better than us.
And we have so much built up synergy, and we'd be able to find the best decks pretty quickly, or at least find the weirdest decks that would lose in a blazing glory.
I challenge them because they could not. We are the best at that. I know because one time TJ and I won 11 coin flips in a row.
And Frodan would be my second one, just because he's always got everybody else's backs. it's time for meme history. We'll say in honor of BlizzCon, HCT coming up at BlizzCon pretty soon, is Artosis trying to execute his own Sylvanas to steal a Cairn.
He had a little bit of a brain fart. I saw this happen. We all laughed like crazy in the background. His team gave him non-stop trash talk after that happened. I hyped this game up a lot on the forum. I'm like, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be so cool. And they expected fantastic play. Oh, Frodan hyped this up. Artosis is going to like wreck everybody this episode. Turns out he made one of the most, iconic misplays of all time. Everyone spammed, PM'd me and said, what? And I won't say the rest of that phrase. Was that? I'm like, this is not what you wanted? Are you not entertained?
It's an old one, but a good one. The way he looks at the camera after he interranges his Sylvanas and tries to execute it, he just slowly turns and is like, It was golden, yes. And it was a meme that hopefully will live on for a very long time to come. We hope this episode of Meme History
makes Hearthstone
help to make Hearthstone a more inclusive place for all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fall Championship. This is the third decider match of the day. Hatul versus languagehacker. One of these players will be moving on to the quarterfinals tomorrow, and one will be going home on Monday.
Why was that funny?
I just should have said something besides going home.
On Monday.
Yeah, because they all go home on Monday.
Not Hatul. He's hanging out for a bit.
Going home on Monday, not being a world championship competitor. That's what I should have said.
It's awfully specific.
That's just what's going to happen. Languagehacker has a 1-0 lead in the series, and we talked about it earlier. Hatul has a lot of bad matchups left remaining. Languagehacker with the odd rogue this game, and Hatul going with the big druid. I feel like this one could be okay. With the big druid as opposed to taunt druid, which I think it's probably its closest relative, you have a little bit more game because I think spreading play, that's the big one. But he's still got a lot of expensive stuff in his deck, and his early game is very inconsistent, and that's where languagehacker thrives.
Well, mind you, taunt druid has Lesser Jasper Spellstone in it. Big druid doesn't have that.
Yeah. It does have Wraths, which taunt druid sometimes has. It depends what you decide to go with. The most common list, I think, has like one Wrath. If you want to go for the double Sleepy Dragon plus double Dragon Hatcher package, but
Wraths are okay. They're not the strongest versus the ideal odd rogue minion, which is Hench Clan Thug. Languagehacker doesn't have that yet, but if he picks that up in the next 2 turns, it's going to force some stuff from Hatul. He's got a fantastic opening hand to fight against odd rogue though, and it's these types of opening hands from Hatul that really lead to those strong victories. The fact that he's got Wild Growth next turn into the swipe, he can take care of the Hench Clan Thug. The one piece of puzzle, the one piece that's really missing from this puzzle is some form of card draw, really for Hatul.
Which is basically just limited to Nourish and Branching Paths that does not run Ultimate Infestation.
It's too big at the top end.
Yeah, he's got Ysera, double Sleepy Dragon, Oakheart, Hadronox, double Dragon Hatcher, Lich King, double Primordial Drake. That's his top end.
And he's drawing some big stuff right now, and this could really be where it spells trouble. Languagehacker with the small drops and the Cold Blood in hand, it's pretty tough to just get through a Fungalmancer really easily. And here, you got to look at Languagehacker's spot and think, maybe I'm supposed to Cold Blood this. It opens me up to a swipe, but it forces a swipe for my opponent on a 5-mana turn, and it lets me get a minion down that I can Fungalmancer. Yeah, if I'm Languagehacker in this spot, I'm Cold Blood.
Yeah, it's almost a lot of times it's going to be.
Whoa! He's moving in. Languagehacker says, enough. I'm going in. This play, honestly, is quite scary if you're in Hatul's spot. I mean, you get to swipe this, and Branching Paths will certainly make you a lot more comfortable about it.
That was an all-in if I've ever seen one.
I don't blame him either. I mean, what liberties does hand really offer him? You know, he's going to use deadly poisons and trade.
And this is the weak point for Hatul. It's the turns 3 through 7, which are the glaring weak points. And you talked about it. No Spellstones means limited removal, which means that Tar Creeper sticks, and he gets to just Fungalmancer two targets next turn.
And honestly, the way that languagehacker's playing right now really plays to Amira's unstable element as well. The one thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see him hold on to this Argent Squire. Yeah. In case he draws, you know, almost Vile Spine specifically, but also for SI7 agent. You know, like it's like the times that holding the Argent Squire matters, it matters a lot. And Atul's hand is still quite heavy, but he's got Malfurion, he's got Branching Pass, and then he's got the big 9s. If he gets past these next couple of turns safely, I think that he's going to get out of this game.
Yeah. He's also got Naturalize for his own Hadronox, which could bring back the taunts that he was able to play earlier on to just end the game on the spot.
Like, you know, a bunch of 1/5s are going to be fine in this scenario. Just trying to exhaust the resources.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, Spreading Plague can exist in this deck and Malfurion with Hadronox, because of the fact that with no Witching Hour, sometimes in the matchups where you need it, Hadronox plus bring back a bunch of 1/5s is pretty good.
Hold the Argent Squire.
The light protects me.
Rewarded with a 6/6.
Glory to the Sindora.
I like 6/6s. They're big.
They're huge. That's a pretty scary board.
It's a very scary board, especially when you only have 8 mana. Now, Branching Pass, Naturalize provides a lot of defense in this spot, but if you Naturalize, that means the Hadronox, you know, the rush of naturalizing your own Hadronox is gone. If you use Lich King here, it's going to get steamrolled. And you're sitting at 15, and if you Branching Pass, you really don't do anything else this turn.
Yeah. And then you just hope that the Sleepy Dragon you play next turn is not going to get Vile Spine.
Yeah, which your opponent would have to draw Vile Spine and something to play.
Yes.
So there's still a number of scary draws from languagehacker, you know, specifically Leroy and Myra's Unstable Element. But outside of that, Hatul's not in a really bad shape, I think, to have a chance in this one.
Yeah. I guess Fungalmancer would also be a pretty big deal in this scenario.
Also a green skin included.
There's actually quite a few bad draws, but he's got 20 cards left in the deck, so there are still a ton of other bad stuff in there, like Fireflies, Sousy Deckhand, another Direwolf,
Tar Creeper, Vicious Fledgling. Even basically anything that doesn't immediately deal damage is pretty bad. Cold Blood, I think, is very weak because he doesn't have any cards left, so holy smokes. How much damage is that? So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's 11 damage for Languagehacker, but he has to use a Cold Blood to do it, which means that the 9 mana cards are going to start sticking to the board. Yeah.
So many options.
So I think there's a really good chance that Languagehacker is supposed to save this Cold Blood to push through a Sleepy Dragon or what have you.
I agree.
Just use the 6/6. Use the Henge Clan Thug. I want the Henge Clan Thug on board because it keeps growing.
Yes, yes.
Now, the fear of that is if Death Coil got picked up from Hatul's side and he's got something big to add alongside it.
But at this point, you kind of got to take that risk because he is
giving you that growing potential.
Yeah. Also, Sleepy Dragon exactly comes down next turn. That means the Henge Clan Thug survives the attack after attacking with your dagger, which is a big deal.
He's going to use the Henge Clan Thug. I don't mind it. There is some merit to doing that.
Yeah, I guess Blood Knight still survives the Sleepy Dragon hit, but that growing potential, I think, is a big deal. But
cool. Like, what would you think this is right now? I mean, your opponent just didn't play their card.
It's not Leroy.
It's definitely not Leroy.
You're dead to Leroy.
I don't think it's a 1-drop. I think your opponent, well, it could be like a Sousy Deckhand or Dire Maul or an Argent Squire.
It could be a lot of things.
Could be a Cold Blood.
Could be Vile Spine.
Looking at it from Hatul's perspective, the range of it is very scary, is my point. It's either something that is very important or it's something that's not important at all.
Yeah.
And so it polarizes the range from Languagehacker, where Hatul, you know, you kind of second-guess yourself.
Could also be Baku, who's at 8 mana last turn. So there's about half the cards in this deck that this could still be.
And so notice here, when he thinks about it, he's like, if I play a big dragon, I can die to a Vile Spine being held in hand.
Yeah.
If I armor up, however, I can get out of this pretty cleanly. I think this is really smart from Hatul.
Death is eternal.
And Naturalize is scary, though. Oh, boy. That's a cold blood.
Yeah. What do you think about the armor up versus attack?
I think that Hatul definitely should be attacking the Dire Maul. Because now he takes 7. I think in Language Hacker's spot, I like playing the Firefly. There's only one really big punish to playing it, and that's if you draw the Baku. So his position may be just so good that it doesn't matter. Like, don't draw the Baku, just, play around drawing the Baku, and you're gonna win.
And that's game.
Yeah.
This actually all goes back to him not attacking the Dire Maul.
Yeah, not attacking the Dire Maul ended up being a giant blunder in this one.
Wow, I actually thought Hatul was in a good spot, but for some reason, Language Hacker just sneaks that win. And a big win at that.
The 12 armor on the branching pass makes a lot of sense. The Naturalize makes a lot of sense. It's the 3 extra armor in that spot. You can shut off a Dire Maul from getting Fungal Mancered or from getting Cold-Blooded. And granted, he's already seen a Cold Blood, but in that spot, Hatul might get out of that if he kills that Dire Maul. Dire Maul hit for 14.
Yep.
It would have hit for 3.
He gained
it dealt 8 extra damage effectively because it's the net 3 armor.
Yeah.
So you subtract that, and then you take 3 damage from actually whacking the Dire Maul. So I don't know the exact calculation, but he might get out of that if he attacks the Dire Maul instead.
Yeah. It's a really tough situation to be in, but there's a lot of things that punish you. I mean, there could have been a Fungal Mancer as well that could have come out and dealt another 5 points of initial damage, but it's hard to kind of make those reads in that situation, especially since you'd seen a Cold Blood and a Fungal Mancer already.
It's a lot less about reads in that situation too. I mean, Language Hacker's working on nothing, so it's just about calculating what punishes me the most here. Obviously, Vile Spine is one of those cards, but you have no way to play around that. So you got to think about the ones you can play around: Fungal Mancer, Cold Blood.
Yep, that's right. But Language Hacker currently on match point in the series versus Hatul. Will he advance to the quarterfinals, or will Hatul make the comeback? Find out right after this.
Yeah, the most dangerous one are my own decks, because maybe I could lose to my own cards. That happens sometimes in Hearthstone. So I like being proactive. I like the mid-range style. I know how to reflect that in my decks. I build my decks to match my playstyle. I don't just copy the net deck and play hundreds of games with it until I figure out everything. I know how I want to play, and I'll make my decks perform up to that. Warrior is currently on a really high power level, but because people don't take the extra mile to actually build it properly or build it to do anything else than having polarized matchups against aggros, so they just overlook it and miss out on that. I like Dr. Boom himself. It's good for pressing buttons. If you like pressing buttons, use this card. If I have one guy that is difficult to beat and the other 2 are easy to beat, then I will just make it out of the group. No question asked. But surprise is awaiting.
Hi, my name's Mihai Dragalin. I go by the tag Language Hacker. I'm from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. One of the things that separates me from the other players is that I've been working a lot recently on my flexibility in what I'm bringing to tournaments. Recently in playoffs, I brought an anti-control lineup, but in the weeks leading up to this, I played a few other tournaments where I brought a different lineup each time to try and test that and see if that's what I wanted to bring. So ultimately, I did settle on something that was similar in playoffs, but I think having the option to be very flexible in my lineups was a good thing to have.
That's an understand that it's unwinnable. Purple gonna give it up, and Language Hacker in the most dramatic of fashions after looking visibly unhappy with the way the game was going himself initially.
I think one of the biggest things players have to fear about me is the cards that I get off of Hackathon.
Wow, Language Hacker has to use Shutterwalk simply for defense. It gets killed, and Hagatha creates one of the craziest endgame states that I have ever seen.
I'm a little bit scared of the full aggro lineups. I've teched a bit more towards them. I have mind control techs. I switched to Odd Rogue instead of Quest Rogue that I had in playoffs to be a bit better against them. There's other lineups that have Quest Rogue and maybe a powerful Druid deck that I wasn't prepared for. That might be a bit more difficult. In terms of the decks that players brought and didn't bring, I wouldn't say I'm surprised that some archetypes didn't show up. There was a lot of testing done, I think, in the past few weeks with the Resurrect Priest, where you have Gargoyles, Malagos, Velen, and that stuff, where you can make an OTK combo or just get a lot of value. In the new Boomsday expansion, Dr. Boom is definitely my favorite card. Historically, I've played a lot of control decks, particularly Control Warrior, so the addition of this to the Control Warrior arsenal has been really good for me. There's a lot more prep work that goes into the lineup than just playing well. And of course, playing well is very important, but having the tools to be able to play well against the other players is just as important, if not more important.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Fall Championships. You can see on your screen Language Hacker getting ready for match point versus Hatul. And Language Hacker's a player that both me and you have followed for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
A few years ago, when we first started casting together, we cast him in Tespa, actually. And I thought that he was a great player. We tell the funny story all the time about how for a year and a half you called him Language Hacker because he doesn't capitalize the L in his name.
And there was no A.
And there was no A. He took out some of the vowels in his name to really hack some language, so to speak.
I remember calling him Language Hacker to his face.
Yeah.
And he didn't correct me. He's just too nice.
He is. He's a very polite and calm individual. And being calm, I guess, helps you in this type of environment where, everything's on the line for him as a player. He's definitely a guy that's kind of worked his way up the system, started in Tespa, graduated school, started competing, almost full-time in tournaments. We even saw him at all the America's Dream Hacks, and one in particular, Austin, he had a 9-0 Swiss rounds. So that tells a lot about a player because there's a ton of great tournament, like Swiss tournament players in the Americas that he had to get through. And now he's here on what is almost Hearthstone's biggest stage, trying to qualify for what is actually Hearthstone's biggest stage of the World Championship.
Hatul's been no stranger to that competitive play either. He's been more on the organization side, though.
Yeah, he's organized a lot of fireside gatherings and community events in Israel, and even though he qualified from the Challenger system, he's actually got more HCT points than a few of the competitors here,
including Language Hacker.
So he was very adamant about, he's not like a true underdog, I guess as we called it earlier in the week. He's actually a player that's just qualified a different way than everybody else and has just as much reason to call himself a top-tier competitor as everybody else because he's earned the points to do so. And he's done it his own way in just about every regard. His own decks, his own play style, his own personality.
I wonder.
I got nothing to add. That was just perfect. It's beautiful in every way. You said everything that I wanted to say. Thank you, TJ.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
Language Hacker faced with a really difficult turn. He clearly planned to use Farsight, and actually, if I was in Language Hacker's position, I would have been using Farsight here. There's a big benefit to Keliseth, but I don't think he's going to be bringing the beat down to Hatul anytime soon. And so one of the reasons that I like him going with Farsight is because Language Hacker's Shutterwalk deck has been built a little bit differently than the others. And it's a one-card change, but it's a big change. He's got Hemet Jungle Hunter in there. Destroys all the 3 or less cost cards left in your deck. The whole week, we've been seeing Shutterwalk decks struggle to find their tools at the end of the game. I think back to the disastrous situation that happened earlier with Lion King, where his Zola and his Grumble were the last 2 cards in his deck. If he had Hemet Jungle Hunter in that game, he would have won.
Yes.
And Language Hacker, I think, has been having one of the better performances with Shutterwalk this far, and I contribute a lot of that to the lean effect. The fact that you can speed up that process of effective card drawing is a really big deal.
Yes. I really like that inclusion with the kind of style that he's been playing. As you said, a lot of times throughout this weekend, the Shutterwalk Shamans have been losing just because they're not able to find their combos quick enough. But this one could be tough because Hatul, if Language Hacker's not able to find the combo quick enough, Hatul has a lot of big stuff. And even with Shutterwalk, if you can't get through a big board, even if you're going infinite with Shudder Walks, they could have 6 big minions on the board that they double branching paths and kill you anyway from 30.
Yeah, but I mean, Language Hacker's having some pretty big turns here.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
One of the major things I look at is the fact that he's got already 2 hexes in hand, and the fact that that Hatul, one of his big packages is Hadronox. You know, Hex is one of the things that can really douse those plans. And when you've drawn Ysera, you've drawn Hadronox, you've used your Dakari Enchanter, the effect of Oakheart has been, you know, cut significantly in this spot.
Yeah, he's gonna pull a Bright-Eyed Scout.
Awesome.
And a Dragon Hatcher.
Cool.
Now the Dragon Hatcher will pull a dragon, but let's say he draws another Dragon Hatcher between now and the time he plays Master Oakheart.
Or that Language Hacker just has board by that time. You know, he just grumbled, Grumble lives. Acolyte, Saronite, Life Drinker. I mean, there's so much that Language Hacker has going for him right now that I feel like Hatul's going to have trouble just fending off Language Hacker's pressure at this point. That is not a good sign if you're in Hatul's spot. You just get beat down by a 7-7 right now.
Yeah.
You know, I look at this last turn, Hatul is just drawing all the top end. Now, granted, there's a lot of top end, but this is not the situation where you want to be drawing top end. I mean, this is the, like, match point for Language Hacker. This is disaster.
5 9-drops in hand, plus an 8-drop.
You said 5 9-drops?
Well, he's got 5 9-drops in hand.
There's only 1 left in the deck. That's a lot of 9-drops.
Well, there's 2. There's a second Dragon Hatcher, and then there's a second Sleepy Dragon. But still, point made.
You want to draw the Wild Growths and the Nourishes, the Greedy Sprite. You want to draw the stuff that ramps you. You know, there's just as much of that as there the other side. Draw the wrong half.
I don't know about that, Admirable. This is called Big Druid.
It's 2 naturalizes and then 8 and 9-drops.
Speak to me.
That's not what it is, though.
Andrew's drawn second Serenade Chain Gang.
You do not need Shutter Walk if you're delivering this kind of damage. Hatul, I'm pretty sure, is just dead. I'll tell you what.
Takes a sip of his water.
Grumble is still a 6-mana 7/7. And against a deck that does not apply pressure and does not have a lot of removal, that's going to kill him. I think Hatul maybe had to naturalize this Grumble a lot earlier. And he knows that he's defeated. Language Hacker's got the goods. And in one of the quickest best of 5s that we've seen this weekend, Language Hacker's going to take it down and move on to the top 8. My hat's off to Hatul. He brought his own decks. I think, honestly, he played pretty decent throughout this weekend, which is something that, with the unique deck lists, we had questions about.
Yes.
Language Hacker, he a little bit shaky on the first day of play, but on the second one, he shored that up. No more questions for Language Hacker. For me, at least, at this time.
Yeah, you can see Group C, Language Hacker, Blood Trail, the 2 players making it out of the quarterfinals. This also means that we have 3 out of the 4 America's players into the top 8 with a chance to get a 4th. So a pretty big deal, a very well-played series by Language Hacker, and currently Cora is standing by on stage with an interview.
2 3-0 victories today for Language Hacker, complete opposite of what we saw in your first series of the tournament. And now you're moving on to the quarterfinals. How are you feeling?
Feels okay. Feels pretty good. After my rocky start yesterday, I'm really happy I stepped it up today and managed to get 2 3-0s.
Well, it was really something to see. And I do want to ask, there's something that I haven't been talking about much, and that's ban strategy. And up against Hatul, because he brought some really strange stuff. I know I was a little bit disappointed that the Warrior kept getting banned away. So why don't you talk a little bit about why exactly you chose to ban the Warrior?
Sure. I initially didn't want to ban the Warrior. I thought it'd be really cool and fun to play against. But after running through all the like possible bans that we could go through, what makes sense from his side, what makes sense from my side, I ended up settling on the fact that the Warrior, as crazy as it sounds, is consistent enough against my decks that I should ban that and try to prey on his less consistent decks. Like as we saw, the big Druid didn't manage to actually ramp up and get, you know, their big minions down before I killed him with the Odd Rogue, and I even managed to kill him with the Shudderwalk Shaman before he got his game plan going, so.
He had about 5 9-drops in hand that game. think he only runs about 6 in the deck. It was a very heavy start for Hatul. But at the end of the day, even an Odd Warrior with Festeroot Hulk is still just an Odd Warrior. I do think he's onto something there, and I'm hoping that maybe we get an iteration of that deck that is inspired by Hatul and maybe can take off in some facet. Final question, you are Canadian. It is the Americas region after all. Why don't you say something to the fans at home who are rooting for you, who maybe chose you as their champion?
Thanks for choosing me as your champion. I hedged and didn't, and now I'm regretting it. But yeah, I'm hoping I can win the game tomorrow, make it to Worlds, and represent Canada. Yeah.
Okay, wait, who'd you pick?
Who did you pick?
I hedged. Fair enough. All right, I guess we'll see if Language Hacker makes it to Worlds. Maybe he'll tell us who he picked for his packs, and he'll be earning y'all at home some more packs of your own. Let's send it back over to TJ and find out who will be our final quarterfinalist.
I'm telling you, he's too nice. He wouldn't even pick himself. He picked somebody else. This is your tournament. There's 16 people here in the world, and you're one of them, and you didn't pick yourself. Come on, man.
Well, he still won. So at the end of the day, the prize money they'll win by making it to the quarterfinals will buy him way more than 3 packs.
The pressure of not having to wield the fate of those 4 packs lifted the weight off of Language Hacker's shoulders. That's why he was able to come back so strong today.
Allowed him to get those 2 3-0s. At least that's what we can say. But that's the 7th match done. You know what that means. We have 1 more decider match to go. It's going to be Tyler versus Tincho. Don't go anywhere.